What's up, everybody? So we're back out in the shop, and today we're going to be making a camp knife slash survival knife. This is going to be made out of O1 tool steel. It's going to have Micarta handle scales. It's not going to be super fancy. It's not going to have a bunch of stuff thrown in it. It's going to be a down and dirty, just awesome survival knife. Hopefully y'all like it. Hopefully when it's all said and done, it will make sense for some of the decisions that I've made in this knife. But let's go ahead, jump into it, see how it turns out. So I decided to go ahead and drill the hole first at the back part of this because I thought that it would be easier to go ahead, get the hole exactly where I wanted it, and then cut around it as opposed to cutting it and then trying to center the hole secondary. So the hole's already done. All I got to do is cut around the actual hole. So that's why I went that route. And for this video, I'm just going to pop in here and there whenever I feel like there's necessary information. And other than that, you'll just be hearing the glorious sound of tools. And like I said, I wanted to go ahead and get that hole drilled so that whenever I'm doing this part right here, I can make sure that it's perfectly even all the way around it instead of trying to make that hole even in the afterthought. And right here we're going to take the calipers, we're going to go ahead and measure it and get the centers of these holes marked. And then I'm going to go through here and make sure they're even. So kind of line it up on my little mat here how I want it. And then make sure that the spacing is nice with the calipers. And of course we're just going to go through and get these centers punched to make it easier for us to get our drill going through. Now I'll tell you, the trick to drilling through steel is going as slow as your drill can go and just taking your time and going through it. And then we take those wonderful calipers and get that center line marked so that we know exactly where we're going to go to on our bevels. And then the trick that I like to do here is I'll take and I'll go pretty aggressive on the first part of this, and I'll just grind a pretty steep bevel all the way to that center piece, and then I'll feather it back from there. And it seems to work out really well instead of trying to start on a really broad bevel right off the bat. I learned that from Simple Little Life, that YouTube channel. You should probably go check that out. There's a lot of good tips on there. And then what we're going to take here, we're going to go ahead and get the Scotch-Brite belt. And this is the medium Scotch-Brite belt. And it takes out a ton of the scratches and everything from those heavier grits. It works wonders. Look at that difference already. Just from that Scotch-Brite belt. And I tried something different here with the forge. I didn't want the heat going directly on the blade, so I did put a piece of mild steel in there. It worked out perfectly so that flame wasn't directly on the blade, because I did grind the bevels to where it had a pretty thin edge, and Yeah, because I wasn't planning on grinding them again after it. I wanted to get the grind all the way to the edge right off the bat so that I could do all the heat treat, temper, and everything, and have this finish that I have on it right now going into the acid. You'll see that finish later in the video, but I wanted it to have a particular look on it. So that's the reason why I ground the bevels all the way at the beginning before the heat treat. Now this stuff right here, doing anything micarta, is the messiest stuff you'll deal with. Sanding it, drilling it, cutting it, all of those things, it creates a very fine powder, and that stuff gets all over your shop. And I do cut this as close to the actual shape of the handle, the tang, as you can get, because I don't want to have to sit there and grind all the material down. I want to get it as close right off the bat as you can get so that I have way less work to do later. And then we're going to go ahead and use 400 grit belt here and get the front of this shaped. You always want to do that. Get that front shaped and finished to where it is pretty much done before you glue on the handle scales. It'll make your life so much easier because you really can't mess with it after the fact. And I mixed way too much epoxy on this. Just more came out than I was expecting, and yeah, I had excess. I ended up doing some stuff with it off camera, epoxy and a few things that I needed to epoxy, so I didn't waste it, but it was too much right off the bat. I had to figure out something to do with it. And the trick to the clamps is alternate them. Make sure they go different directions as you're going through. So the two outside ones are the same direction and the middle one's a different direction, because if you try and crank them down with all of the pieces, all of the twister pieces on one side, it's just going to make a big hassle trying to get them tight. You always want to, again, check and see how it feels in your hand as you're going through, so you can feel the hot spots on your fingers where it's actually putting pressure on your hands to figure out where you need to trim it down. And here I'm tapering the back side where that hole is in the handle and getting it shaped where it needs to be. And this belt right here, this is a 400 grit belt. They seemed to do a really good job on this. It was a newer belt, so it was still pretty gritty. And y'all tell me if y'all want to see less of me shaping it like this. I know this is a pretty long section, but I like to show y'all how I go through and shape them, because I do about 85% of it on the belt grinder and then about maybe 15% by hand. Here we go. Now with this, I take it and I start with a 200 grit hand sand and I go up to a 500 grit on this because I want the way that canvas micarta feels in your hand. Whenever you only go up to 500, it still has a good amount of grip to it. If you go up to 1,000, 2,000, it'll just be real slippery, and I wanted to have traction because this is a camp / survival knife. You want to be able to have good grip on it. It's not meant to just look beautiful, it's meant to be functional. And it just feels great in the hand. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take boiled linseed oil and dip it in there. I know it's not wood, but this does add some protection. It does soak into this micarta, and it does make it to where it's easier to actually clean all the dust off and has a little extra layer of protectant to it. So that's the reason why I do that. We're going to go through. This is a 600 grit belt. We're doing the initial cutting edge bevel, the secondary part. And then we're going to go in with an 800 grit and actually go with the belt right here with how we're doing the sharpening. Get a good burr on it, and then we're going to go with the leather strapping belt, do a finish on it, make that thing razor sharp. Alright, let's go to a little sharpness test. So, will it cut paper? Absolutely. It will definitely cut paper. Guys, check that out. That is an awesome finish. At least I think it is. I wanted it to be nice and weather resistant, so I did that acid etch finish on there, and it's a pretty deep acid etch finish. I brought out all of the stuff from the actual heat treat, and then I like this finish because it really shows that transition right there into the bevels. I love the way that looks. And then of course we have our maker's mark on there. This is 01 tool steel with micarta handle scales, and then this hole in the back there for all kinds of different things. The way that I would carry it is either with a lanyard or carabiner, something like that. You can attach this to a backpack or to a vest, however you want to do it. I did leave enough room so that whenever you do have it in your hand, if you have a carabiner or something like that on there, it's not going to impede your grip. And then on the handle scales, I did only go up to 500 grit on these because I wanted to keep that traction that you get from micarta. I didn't want it to be super smooth. I like the canvas micarta feel, and I wanted it to be real grippy. So that's what we did on that. And then we acid etched the whole spine all the way through the belly so that it's all one consistent color throughout the whole knife. Check that out. Something different, something unique. Hopefully y'all dig it. And if you do, tell me about it in the comment section. Guys, thank y'all for coming by and checking this out. And if you would, give this video a thumbs up, share it, or share one of my videos that I've done in the past that might be your favorite. And if you haven't yet, bottom corner, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you get notified of whenever I do stuff like that, plus some of this stuff and some of that stuff. Guys, thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for checking this beauty out. I would love to keep this one, but this one's going to be sold, so might just have to make another one for myself. Guys, I'll catch y'all next time.